Hello! Today, David and I want to show you how we want to model a video player. What we're doing is for the landing page for the Stately website, we want to have this cool video that people can watch. And it's a bit like this one that we've got here on the Centered website. We all like Centered here, so we'll show you what Centered have got. David,
hmm
would you show how that you've got access to it? Show me how it works.
Sure, yeah. So this is a pretty common pattern, but it's really nice where you have a small image with a play button, you click the play button, then you have a video. And what we want to do is have the video start playing unless you press escape or you're clicking outside somewhere, and then it just goes back to the normal mini view. So that's what we want to try to accomplish.
So I'm totally new to state charts and state machines. I imagine I am. And what do I start with? Like, how do I start thinking about turning that into a state machine?
Well, the first thing that we should be thinking about are the states and also the events. And so the states are basically, just what are the different modes or phases or, however you want to consider it, like that that can happen. And the events are like what can be done that changes those states. So, taking this for example, we have this state where this video player is pretty small, but then when you click play, now we're in this different mode or phase, like I talked about, where we have the video playing over here, or not playing, just showing. And we also have like this overlay that sort of fades everything out. And then we could transition back by clicking outside or pressing escape. And so that's how we could transition between those two states. Um,
And and
yeah.
so within the video player itself, we might also have the different states, as in whether it's playing or paused, I guess, are those states?
Yes, yes. So, for example, over here, the video is currently paused, but we're still in this, I guess expanded state or full state, if you want to call it that. And we could play the video, we could pause the video, and then we could just exit back to our normal mini state after that.
And of course, there are lots of other states involved with a lot of video players have quite
hmm
complicated things. I think that was an example of it. It's a YouTube video. So there's all sorts of things you could do. But ours is going to be quite simple because we don't need that many sort of bells and whistles and flashing buttons really for
Right.
our
Yeah.
video.
Yeah. So let's jump into the visualizer and actually start modeling this out.
And this is the stately visualizer we're
It
showing
is,
here.
yeah. So if you go to stately.ai/viz, then you could code along with us, or you could make your own visualizations if you want. But we're going to be doing this for our video player. So first thing to think about is what is the initial state, and what do we want to call this? Like um, over here, the initial state is it's in our mini mode. So uh, you know, maybe call it mini or something like that, and then we need that mini state. And so this state represents. In fact, I could add a description, so I could say meta description, and we could say that. The video is just a small image not playing. And so there we go. That's our first
Yay.
state. So what do you think would be another state that we could have?
So the opposite of the mini mode, I guess, is the maxi mode.
Yeah, maxi or I'll call it,
Expanded, full, yeah.
yeah, let's call it full, just because I like the same number of letters here. So in our full state, let's add a description over here. And adding a description isn't really necessary, but it is nice to let people know what these states actually mean. So the full screen video.
Yeah, mini might not necessarily be the clearest term for everyone to understand without context, so it's useful to provide that context.
Exactly. So now that we have our two states, and like you mentioned, we could have more states than this, how do we actually transition between those states? Like we have to talk about what kinds of events can cause transitions between these two states.
So that would be if you pressed on the button, or in fact pressed anywhere on the video, you would want to expand it, wouldn't you?
Exactly. So we'll just what do we want to call this event? How about toggle? So
Yeah.
if you, yeah, so basically any click on it. So toggle, we're going to go to full. And so now if we take a look at that, we see that our mini states will go to the full state when the toggle event happens. And so by toggle, we mean just clicking this plus or this play button. And then when we click out of it, it should go back. So I called it toggle just because we could reuse the same events for both of them, and that makes our event handlers a lot less verbose.
So it's the difference from saying having maybe an on and an off. A toggle is on off.
Exactly, yeah. So sort of like pressing a light switch. You're doing sort of the same action, but it's turning the light on and off.
Yeah.
So
And so having those set as separate events would just mean you would have so much more code to write.
exactly, and of course you could model it as separate events if you want to, but just for simplicity, we'll have it as the same event.
Yeah, I think
So
if you maybe wanted to end up having other things firing as a result of on versus off and things like that's probably when you would start doing that kind of thing, isn't it?
right, exactly. All right, so just playing around with this, we have our mini state, and when we toggle it, it becomes the full state. And then when we toggle it, it goes back to mini, and so we could just go back and forth between those. Now, even though this is pretty abstract and we just have descriptions, this describes the behavior, or at least the basic behavior of what we see over here. So you could think of this as the mini state, and then the full state, then back to the mini, then full mini. Just sort of the same idea.
And that's a state machine right there, a state machine, a state chart.
Exactly. So now we want custom behavior in the full state, right? So I think what Centered is doing is you have to press play and then you have to play again on the YouTube video. But I think we're going to take a different approach because we're going to use
Yeah,
the HTML5 video API and actually play the video ourselves.
that makes a
So
lot of sense. Yeah.
yeah, so I'm just going to say, or I'm going to have an entry action, and we're going to say play the video. And I'm just going to have this as text because right now we're in prototyping mode, we're in design mode, so we're not adding the implementation details just yet. So now looking at this logic, when we toggle, we're going to be in our full screen mode, and the video is going to be playing. So now what should happen when we exit the full screen mode?
Well, then we would want to pause the video because we wouldn't want the video to keep playing.
Mm-hmm. Yeah. I'll just put pause video. All right. I keep pressing save. Okay, cool. So whenever we toggle, the video is going to play. And whenever we toggle back, it's going to go to mini and the video is going to pause. So also, yeah, so we have toggle. That's going to go to the mini states and pause the video. But also when we press escape, and I'm trying to think what a good event name for that is.
Exit? Or would that be confusing? We've already got an exit.
Yeah, so how about let's call it key.escape. Just because that makes it clear exactly what is happening to trigger that event. So
Perfect.
on key.escape, we're going to go back to mini. All right, cool. So now whenever we press the escape key, or when we press toggle, that's going to go back to the mini states. So I think this is good enough to get started. It's a pretty basic state machine, but it's good for learning all of the basics, or some of the basics at least. What do
Yeah.
you say we start plugging this into our code?
Oh, well, yeah, let's get to it. It's exciting.
All right. So I am going to copy and paste all of this, and we are going to go to our shared code sandbox, and I'm going to paste it in here. All right, awesome. So I'm going to say const machine equals create machine. And so now that we know that our application logic is correct, we need to basically fill out the implementation details. So when we have play video and pause video, we have to actually have those do something. But right now, this machine isn't really doing anything. Create machine basically creates a blueprint of our application logic for something to interpret and actually make live. Um, so the way we do that is by passing this machine into the interpret function and starting it. All right, so we copied our machine code into here. And so now what's left to do is to add the implementation details that we specified, such as play video, pause video, and also send events such as toggle and key.escape. So in this code sandbox, we have our video over here. Right now, it's not really doing anything. And we're referencing that in the video variable over here. And we also have the player, which is the container for this video. And so this player is going to be that overlay where we could control what happens when we click it and things like that. So let's start by actually making this machine work. And so in order to do that, we're going to create what's called a service, which is created by interpreting the machine and starting it. And so what this is doing is it's taking this machine, which you could consider a blueprint of the application logic, and it's actually making it live. So we could send events to it and cause changes to happen and cause these actions to actually be executed. And the way we do that is by sending events to the service. So state changes are caused due to events. So let's just test this out. We have service over here, and the service is started because we called .start. So now let's actually have this video play. Right now, you see the video is not playing. But if we say service.send, and we're going to toggle it because right now it's in the mini state. So now, hypothetically, it's going to be in the full state, but you're not going to see that. Okay. All right, now let's take a look at what this machine is actually going to be doing when it's interpreted. So we're going to add on transition, which is going to allow us to listen to the states whenever it changes. And so we get a few values over here, including the state.value. And this is going to represent the finite state. And we also get state.actions, which is going to represent actions that should be executed. Now, we could tell the machine how to actually execute those actions, and we'll do that in a bit. But for now, it's just going to tell us these actions should be executed.
So we can see what's going to happen. It's like the ghost version.
Exactly. Yeah, you could think of it that way. So now we are going to send toggle, and let's actually. Okay, so now you could see that we have the full states because we sent the toggle events, and we also have one action. It has a type of play video. So now we have to specify the implementation details of that play video action. And so we do that in the second argument of create machine. And so we could say actions, play video. And so this is just a function where we actually specify what happens over here. Now we have reference to the video elements, so we could just say video.play. I love how simple the API is for HTML5 video. Okay, so now we see it's actually playing. It's a nice Aurora Borealis. Yeah, so now that we have play video and we see that it works, we could just add pause video as well. So pause video, and this is going to be, you guessed it, video.pause.
And all of these the instructions that you got from the spec for the HTML5 video.
Yeah, exactly. All right, so we have our play video working, but now I actually want to make this work when you actually click it. So we are going to add an event listener to our player over here. We'll say player.add event listener, and we'll listen to the click event. So whenever the click happens, and this is the reason that I chose the toggle event, all we're going to be doing is sending a toggle event. So this is going to be going back and forth between the mini and the full state. And remember, whenever we enter the full state, we're going to be playing the video. And then whenever we leave the full state and presumably go to the mini state, we're going to pause the video. So let's just see if that works when we click. All right, it's playing, it's pausing, playing, pausing.
And you can see it in the console that it's going full and mini and full and mini.
Yeah, exactly. Now, some of you might be thinking, like, doesn't the video player already have a play and pause? The reason that we want to control it in this use case ourselves using a state machine is because we need to do things other than what the native video player has, such as actually expanding it. So I prepared some CSS where we have a data state data attribute, and it could either be full or mini. So we're going to set those over here. We have a state value, which is a string. And so I'm just going to set player.dataset. Actually, we'll leave that console.log in there. But player.dataset.state equals state.value. And to remember, this could be full or mini.
And that's great. They're using the same values so that you're not going to introduce any confusion in there either.
Exactly. Yeah. So when we click play, it goes to full mode, which is awesome. Now, if we click again, it's actually going to go back, which sort of what we want right now. It's happening when we click the video, but presumably when you click outside the video, that's when it's supposed to shrink down to its mini state.
It's quite dramatic at the moment. It's like, right, you want me to stop? I'll go mini as well.
Exactly. Yeah. So, yeah, we also have this key.escape events, which we should probably add as well. So I'm going to put window.add event listener. And I think it's just key down, not mistaken. And then we're going to say if events.key equals escape, I believe, then service.send key.escape. Now, if we press the escape key, which I just did, it's going to both pause the video and go back to our mini mode. Yeah, so one last thing that I want to add is that when the video ends, we don't want the user just staring at a stopped video. So we should automatically transition back to the mini state. And so I'm just going to have a new event called video.ended. We're going to say that this also goes to the mini state as well. And so we need to actually detect when the video ended. And thankfully, with the HTML5 video API, we could say video.add event listener ended. And then over here, we could just send that as an event, service.send video.ended. Now let's try it out. When we play the video, it's going to play for all of 4 seconds. I'm not doing anything. And then when it's done, it's going to go back to the mini view. So yeah, you could see that in our event listeners, we have very simple events, maybe some conditionals for sending specific events, but we're not putting our application logic inside the event listeners here. Instead, those are all being controlled by the state machine. And so we could take the state machine and we could bring it back to our visualizer and just take a look at it. Of course, we have to comment out our implementations because we don't have a video, but we could see our logic in the visualizer. And so we could toggle, and we could understand that when you press the escape key or when the video ended, it's going to go back to the mini states.
And that's great. So when you can share it with other people that you're working with as well, so that they can understand how it's supposed to work too, if you're not necessarily the person implementing it and you just want to model it.
Right. So there you go. I hope you enjoyed our short little demonstration of a video player with XState.
let's see how we can do this using the visual editor now. I think this is particularly exciting.
Sure. So yeah, we're going to design this using our visual editor. I'm going to call this video example, and we are going to create this system and add a new machine to it. Now, when you click Add Machine, we have this over here. It's a new machine with some examples over here. So we have a first state and an event that goes to the second state. We're actually going to call this player. And so our first state is going to be mini. And so this mini state is going to be the, I guess you could say, collapsed version of the video player. So when it's not playing. And then on an event, we go to the full state. And so this is going to be the full screen video playing. Well, I guess it could be playing or pause depending on what you're doing. But just like the visualizer, we could add descriptions over here and understand what's happening in each state.
Yeah, and they're not required, but they're very useful, particularly if you're collaborating with other people as well.
Right. So now, just like before, this is going to be a toggle event because when we click on the player, it's going to go from the mini to the full state. And so we're going to add another one over here, and I'm going to call this toggle as well. So it's going to be the same event. And so we could see that basically the same logic is happening. We go from mini to full when we have that toggle event. So now let's add some actions. So one action that we're going to do whenever we enter the full state is we're going to play the video. And so we're also going to have an exit action of not play video, but pause video. And so from that, we have our fully designed state machine. And I didn't write any code, but here it is in all of its glory.
And it was that quick as well.
Yeah. All right, so let's refine this full state because immediately it's going to start playing, and then when you exit, it pauses. But that might not be the desired behavior, and we want to be able to tweak that a little bit more. So I'm going to introduce nested states to this full state, and so this full state is going to become a compound state. And so we're going to introduce states, and it could either be playing or paused. And initially, in our current behavior, it's going to be playing.
And we always need initial state so that the machine knows where to start. And a compound state is another word for like a parent of the state. So you've got a parent and a child, and the parent is the compound state.
Right. So the parent state controls both the playing and the paused state. And so child states capture events first before parent states. So whenever you send an event to a machine and a child state is active, first the child state is going to respond and say, oh, I handled this event, this is what we're going to do. But if the child doesn't handle it, then it bubbles up to the parent state. And so if playing doesn't handle it, then full will handle it. And you're going to see that in a minute because we're going to add a transition between playing and paused. So for the playing state, when we pause, we go to the paused state, of course. And when we're in the pause state, when we play, then we go to the playing state. And so that's how it looks. Now, in the playing state, when we toggle or press the escape key or the video ended, then that's when the parent state handles that event instead of the child states because the child states don't have any transitions for those events.
Right. So it doesn't know what it doesn't even listen to those events. It just has no comprehension of them whatsoever.
Exactly. Yeah. So yeah, we can move this entry action to the playing state. So we could say entry a video. And same thing for the pause state. So we could say on the pause state, whenever we exit, we pause the video. But we could also just refine the behavior of exiting this full state. And we'll introduce a new action, which is stop video. So the difference between pause video and stop video is, of course, pause video will pause it at the moment that we're currently playing, and
Right.
stop video is going to move it to the beginning. All right, so let's add some extra behavior inside of our state machine that we created in the editor. So we're going to create a couple of child states here, both in the new state 1 and the new state 2, and let's rename these. So this is going to be playing, and this is going to be paused. And so the idea is that we're initially going to be in the playing state, and so whenever we pause, we go to the paused state, and whenever we play, we go to the playing state. And so now the behavior changes because now we're not going to be playing the video in the full state. So we could go ahead and just delete that action over there and move it to over here. So this is going to be play video. And this is going to be pause video.
So we'll remove that exit state off the full state as well.
Right, yeah. So we delete this. And so now whenever we're exiting the full state, we want to actually stop the video. So we just add it like that. And there we go. That is our updated state machine with some extra states.